afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, my fellow entrepreneurs. Some of us are not entrepreneurs anymore because we've been able to develop over time entrepreneurs within our organization and move and shift away from just being an entrepreneur. But you know what? Once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. So it's great to be here today, and I'd like to thank the executive director and the alumni president for the invitation to be here today and to speak with you about this very important topic of strategic opportunities for the future in our darling and wonderful Nigeria. But I dare say that if we leave this room thinking about only Nigeria, then I have failed you. Because we need to be able to expand our horizons to not only West Africa, not only Sub-Saharan Africa, but also Africa and the globe. And if you look at the number of unicorns that Nigeria has birthed over the last 3 or 4 years, you know that history is being made in this room as we speak. So let's start by first giving Faith Foundation a wonderful, resounding round of applause for all the hard work, thank you, all the hard work that has been put in to training, mentoring, grooming, and also, of course, igniting entrepreneurs across the globe and in our country. So as the MC said, I'm the managing director of JNC International, a proudly Nigerian, now proudly African medical equipment solutions company. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the JNC story because that's what I've been told to focus on. Let me see if this works. Okay, so it's going to be about 20 minutes or so, and I do hope that afterwards that we will have a good question and answer session so that we can get a little bit more interactive, because I like to have two-way communication. Now, as SMEs in the room, we all know that the environment is a challenging environment, what they call the VUCA environment. Sometimes, even after 20 years of business, I wake up confused. I also wake up and wonder, there are so many uncertainties. I'm perplexed with the inconsistent government policies that overnight change everything, with a dollar that in the space of 2 months has gone from 750 to 1,000 as at a few days ago. Maybe it's even higher today. There's so many things that can make us disoriented and clear. But if there's anything that we all know is that as well as there are challenges in our environment, there are also opportunities. So I'm sure each and every one of us in this room have seen the opportunities in all of this, sometimes I call it chaos. Now, there's also some statistics that we need to look at. They say, and this is not me saying so, that 70% of SMEs will die before their first birthday, their first birthday. In 5 years, how many of us have a business that is really successful? 15 years, 20 years, how many businesses in Nigeria do we have that are trans-generational? So sustainability is not just for the blue chips, it's also for us as SMEs. So I'm going to take you through this outline here, a little bit about JNC, who we are, how did we become what we're doing today, what was the entrepreneurial journey and the transition, at what point did we pivot into a multinational, and what are the learning lessons that we can do as we go along. So the first slide I'd like to share with you here is that what drives us and makes us different. Because not everybody in the room here is an entrepreneur. Some of us are intrapreneurs. But whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, what defines you and makes you different is the fact that you have not only the gray matter, but you have a gut feel of what will work. You're driven by an inner passion, and that your job is to bottle that inner passion and share with the rest of your team as you grow with your team. So it's not just business as usual, it is passion with business. And that's what leans to profits at the end of the day. So we must have a purpose, we must have passion, but that will lead to profit, and in that order. When you do the right thing, keep your hands clean, your heart pure, the money will follow. If you chase the money only, you may have a shortfall in what you need to do. So what is the background and how did we get here as a time? I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about myself, because you can't talk about entrepreneurship if you don't talk about the entrepreneur. I don't want to go into too much detail, but bottom line is I've had I'll call it privilege of growing up in 3 climes. Growing up in Nigeria, growing up in Canada, being born in England, and at some stage, going to the Arab world in Kuwait. And I think that also helped to define the fact that I see myself in Nigeria as a value add. I can make a whole lot more difference in my own country because the challenges are more sometimes that can be turned to opportunities. I also think that the background of my parenting and how they brought me on board prepared me for the work that is coming. The first rude awakening of being an entrepreneur is that I thought I would have more time on my hands. I'll be my own boss. I can do things at my own time. Oh boy. Was I wrong? Absolutely wrong. I don't think anybody prepares you for this journey of entrepreneurship. And I didn't have the opportunity of going to Faith Foundation. I did not have the opportunity of being in this room and being mentored by incredible people like Paul, who spoke with you earlier. Wasn't he amazing? Absolutely. So it is important that we also learn that we must have a safety net of people like ourselves, that we can, when the trouble gets tough, that we can go back to our cohort that we did our courses with and have a safety net of talking to people, because it's lonely at the top sometimes. But beyond that, we also need to know that we have to make tough choices. Next slide, please. So I spent my first 14 years working for multinationals, and that helped to ground me on the structure of business, because no matter how great your business is, if you do not have structure, it is a challenge. Now, of course, when you first start your business, you cannot have human resources and a finance department and an audit, internal audit, external audit. It's very difficult, right? But as you grow along, you need to get there, but you have the structure in your head. And I think that because I had that multinational background, it was able to give me the fact that this is the direction I needed to go. I needed to put the structure in place, and even if I couldn't afford to put the right people at the beginning, it was a destination that I knew where I was going to. There were also things about multinationals that I didn't like. And working for multinationals, the first thing I hated was this thing they tell you, not the business plan, but do the financial planning, and I want to see your CAGR. Cumulative average growth, whatever it's called, right? One of those things. And all the profits that we were making were finding their way back abroad. And I knew that we needed to keep this vital capital at home. So entrepreneurship was in the offing, but I did not know it was something that I wanted to do. Next slide, please. So I also say that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Can I repeat that again? Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So I didn't become an entrepreneur because I wrote a business plan and because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I bumped my way into entrepreneurship, and that is where I am today. I worked and I had a growing dissatisfaction working for multinationals. I wasn't happy with the profits going abroad. I wasn't happy there wasn't enough investment in growing the polity and growing the ecosystem in our own country. And then unfortunately, I had a boss that was really not so great. And one day I just said, you know what, I can't do this no more. But I took a plunge, and please don't ever do that because it's very dangerous, especially in this climate. But I had an opportunity in my head, and the opportunity was this. I was working for a multinational, and there's a particular hospital that needed to do an entire hospital. And to do an entire hospital, you probably need at least 300 different pieces of equipment. But working for this multinational, I could only do 50. So I did my 50, and we had closed the business. And then when I decided to say, I can't do this no more, I called up this doctor, and I said, I'm sorry, I know that I said I can't do the rest, but would you give me the opportunity to do the rest? And he says, I'm about to sign with a South African company the following day. I said, I've been great. I sold myself. And he says, you know what, Claire, you've been good. And he gave me that opportunity. So be bold and ask. That's the first thing. Be bold and ask. If you don't ask, it doesn't come to you. That led to our first partnership. And I didn't say deal, not deal. First partnership. I don't do deals. You don't do deals with people you want to build long-term relationships with. You do deals with people, I don't want to say you want to cheat, but you want to make a quick buck from. In my kind of business, I can't afford to make a quick buck because it will lead to a reputational damage with time. I have to be able to build long-term partnerships with anybody that I want. So from day one, although I had no business plan, I had it structured in my head that I wanted to have excellence. I wanted integrity. I wanted above-board transactions. I wanted to make sure that we had after-sales service. Of course, could I afford biomedical engineers? No. But with the very first project that we worked on, and we are still working with this client till today, 20 years later, we were able to do this. And it was spontaneous financing. Does everybody know what spontaneous financing is? One of our challenges being an SME is access to finance, and we cannot find the money. But sometimes if you're really good and you can get a bank guarantee, you can get you give them what they call an APG, an advance payment guarantee. I didn't have to provide an APG. I was the APG because they had trusted me over time. They paid me 70% upfront. And with the 70%, of course, I invested every single penny in their project, delivered, and had milestones where they paid me the balance. So I didn't need any money. Now, that was a special opportunity, and that's why I said we're luck. Luck is when you have preparation meeting opportunity. Are we prepared for the opportunities around us? Is the question that we want. So we'll go to the next slide. This is a saying that I like to leverage on because it says, in a rapidly changing healthcare industry, survivor increasingly depends on leading in the categories with distinctive capabilities, business capabilities. So that was another thing. If you want to be doing what everybody else is doing, then you're another me too. But I also said I would be a pace setter. I would be a disruptor. I would be an innovator. I will bring change. I will do what everybody else is doing in a different way. And that's what innovation is. Innovation doesn't mean that you must do something drastically different. Drastically different. You can just do some things that some people are doing, but you think of the customer. In my case, the patient at mind. So we became very patient-centric. If I were the patient, what would I want? If I were in the hands or in the shoes of the doctor that was buying this equipment, what would I want? And it's nice to be able to juxtapose it. So you need to be able to lead and have a distinctive category. So where was the opportunity for me? I was in an environment that had too many issues. And to today, in all of us saw during COVID, that healthcare is not where it is. We have the highest maternal and neonatal mortality in the world in Nigeria. Too many women and children dying. And there's so many other issues as you see on the slide. But for each time there are those challenges, there were those challenges that were within my control and those that were not within my control. Do not focus on the things that you know you can't really influence in the short term. So I concentrated on the bottom half of those issues. There is poor access to healthcare. Infrastructure was poor, so I could work on infrastructure. There was poor regulation. I could also find myself influencing regulation. I could also see the fact that there was a rise in communicable diseases like HIV and so on and so forth, but there was also non-communicable diseases. More people were getting cardiovascular disease, hypertension. With this environment, younger people are stressed out with hypertension and high blood pressure, as well as cancer. And that's where I focused on the things that I could do. There were too many people leaving the country, both the doctors, which we call brain drain, and the patients, which we call patient drain. And that means that I could try and find ways to keep the doctors back in country. Why were they leaving? They didn't have the infrastructure. Why were people going to India and other places? Because they didn't believe in the country. So for each time there was a challenge, there's an opportunity. Have you identified what are the challenges in your business, in the environment? Do you do a pestle analysis? Do you do a SWOT analysis? What are the analysis that you do to define what are the things that you could focus your business on? Or what are the new opportunities that can allow you to pivot from what you're doing right now and scale to something totally different? This is what led to the birth of JNCI. It was a new business opportunity for us to create value where there was a niche and where there was a need. Thank you. Next slide, please. So at the early days, I found myself, I'm a pharmacist. I'm not a doctor. And yet I had to speak like a doctor. I had to learn how to do open heart surgery. Not physically, theoretically. So please, nobody come with your heart. I had to learn to do operations. I had to learn the lingo. I had to understand what is magnetic resonance imaging, what is ERC, what is laparoscopic surgery, what is computed tomography. It sounds like really crazy language, right? A pharmacist turning into a doctor. That is what happened to me. So the next thing that I learned is that I had to become a sponge for knowledge. How many of us read? And how many of us read widely? Ask yourself. So it is not just to know your area, you also have to know everything about what you do and also what your competitors do. So that was one of the things that helped me, that I became a sponge. Every exhibition in the world I visited, any course that I could register myself in, free or not, I did. And that helped to become, to give people the confidence that I wasn't just another person pushing equipment, pushing boxes, but I was truly a solutions provider, and I got my team to develop and believe in this vision, which was then just in the offing. And that's what happened. So we have to see ourselves as ecosystem builders and have a long-term approach to this customer relationship. We start with prospects, we groom them to customers, we take them to clients, and we want to get to the final destination, partnership. It's a long journey, and it starts with building trust and doing the right thing and having integrity. And playing to your strengths. Don't play to your weaknesses, and find the niche that you can fill. And this is how we started. So if you look at this slide, JNC is a proudly Nigerian company. I'm not going to go into too many of these details, but we have 27 franchises, original equipment manufacturers, and I'll show you as we go along. But most importantly, we have 130 proudly Nigerian staff who are doing amazing work. And I say we're a dynamic team, they're the dream team, and there is no JNCI without Team JNCI. So I am just the chief cheerleader. Next slide, please. So we have 4 corporate values, which you see on the slide there. But in the middle of everything is this word called quality. The minute you move away from quality and you start to compromise, you compromise your value system, everything else goes. So professionalism, passion, value for life, and integrity are important to us. So you must define not only your vision, not only your mission, but also your values. And by the way, these values and your mission does not need to stay the same. From time to time during your strategy meetings, if you have a board, fine. If you have an advisory board, fine. If you don't have, you have family and friends, or you have one another. Critique your vision and your mission and revisit again, because things change as we go along. These are just, please just skip through. These are just some of the partners that we represent in country. So just tonight, stop there, thank you. And those are some of the partners. Now, they're quite a lot, and it's hard managing 27 partners. But when you have a great team, it's incredible. Do we start with 27 partners? Absolutely not. We started with 0. And I'll tell you the story of the very first partner. The number 1 company in the world is a company called Gettinger, and they make theater solutions. I went to the exhibition for 4 days. I went to the stand, admired and left. Admired and left. On the last day, when they were packing up the stand, I asked a lady, please, may I have some of your brochures? She looked at me and said, I've noticed that you've come to this stand every day for the last 4 days. What do you like about us? And I explained, you don't think an elevator pitch is when somebody asks you a question. You think an elevator pitch is when you pitch. Actually, she was the one interviewing me, and I didn't realize it. And I told her, I've just started this business 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I really love what you're doing. It's wow, and I can just imagine. She said, I'm going to make you my distributor. Just like that. So make yourself available, ask the right questions, show the curiosity. Opportunity is out there for every single one of us. And then, of course, God knows what you're going to do before you even started. So please, always remember Baba God when you're doing things. All right. So over the years, we've been able to win many awards. But I say that, for me, the most important awards are not the ones that the international community represents. It is when your own local community recognizes you. Because that one you can't influence and you cannot manipulate. So we have won the Nigerian Health Excellence Awards for the last 9 years. 9 years in biomedical engineering. So I'm a pharmacist. I've been doing marketing for, 20 years or so before this. And now I'm winning awards for biomedical engineering. Can I do it alone? Absolutely not. But you have to do it bold. You have to think it bold. So at the beginning, the second project we got was an entire teaching hospital in Delta State, the Delta State University Teaching Hospital. I had no biomedical engineer, but I met a company in South Africa that had the whole retinue of engineers, and we worked with them, gave them a percentage of our profits, and they came with the entire South African team, and they helped me set up that hospital, and we learned from them, and we learned fast. But I also learned the hard way. Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we come here and we tell our stories like everything is honky-dory. Unfortunately, it's not. One of the pieces of equipment, and I've actually never repeated this story and I'm on camera, so I need to be careful. But one piece of equipment that was supplied somewhere, let me leave it like that, right, was second-hand. And I paid a huge amount of money for it. When I say huge, huge. Several figures. And I felt extremely cheated that somebody took advantage of this young lady that was just growing her business. So that young girl grew up. And when she grew up, she realized that charity begins at home. We must have a homegrown solution for homegrown problems. And that's how we developed the Nigerian team with maybe 1 or 2 engineers, today to 27 engineers. So you have to be able to walk the talk and back it up. Thank you. So as I said, beginning was a rude awakening. I thought I was my own boss and I'd be able to do everything differently. Unfortunately, I just realized I was just the chief visionaire. And that vision at the beginning is not the vision today. My vision at the beginning was to be the best medical equipment solutions company in Nigeria. The vision of the company right now is in West Africa. I had nothing to do with that vision. It was the team. So as entrepreneurs, our job is to bottle our passion, share the passion with others, be bold and move on. So I'm going to go on now to the slide with the graph. Please, next slide, please. So this is the trajectory right now. The first 4 years, we were an entrepreneurial venture. But with time, I didn't coin this. The bank said you are no longer entrepreneurial. You have set in place all that is required to be a global company. But I said, no, we're not a global company. We're a local company. Is there a difference? So we think globally, but we act locally. So we find local solutions for local problems, local challenges, and move forward. And they tagged us a national corporate. When you have reached a certain turnover, when you've got a certain revenue and profits, when you have a certain number of staff, everything changes. But nothing prepares you for the trajectory of growth. And that's what I want to spend some time on right now. Next slide, please. So how did we make it work? The first one was I cut up this slide that says, next slide, that says, I can't do it. There's nothing I can't do. I removed the T from it and it became what? I can do it. Can I hear it again? I can do it. So you have to become, in this environment, you have to become a positive thinker. If you're not a positive thinker, every other day will depress you. Okay, so the first thing for us as entrepreneurs was a leadership journey. Nothing prepares you for the leadership journey because before Faith Foundation come on board, most of us were bumping our way through. The only thing that helped me was the multinational background and the fact that I did an MBA. And the MBA really helped me to put structure in places, but that's theoretical. Entrepreneurship in Nigeria is practical. So I say it is important that for me, what I do is no longer a job. It is a vocation, it's a calling. And everybody in the company is almost singing the same hymn sheet, that this is a calling. We need to make a difference in healthcare in Nigeria. There's no glass ceiling that we cannot shatter. We do it afraid. Can I hear that again? We do it afraid. We're not afraid. We have no fear. We keep on going. $1,000, 1,500, God forbid. All right? We will, we will get it done. We will find a way. I didn't say so. Central Bank Governor, please. And then for me as a woman, I see a lot of women in the room. Whoa. Give the women a round of applause. Men, please don't be jealous. It's important we celebrate our women too, because it is a man's world in many of our industries, especially those of you in the agricultural industry. I think there are quite a few in the room. It is a tough world to be in. In my industry too, it's a man's world, but I have never, and I repeat, I have never felt like a woman or a man. It is the best person for the job. And you have to be the best person for the job. So do not use the gender card in any way to make excuses. So these are some of the things that we have done right now. The first thing was, as I mentioned before, having an overarching strategy. That vision, that mission, the importance of having core values that are important and integral for you, determining the competencies of your team and who you needed to complement yourself, knowing that you cannot do everything alone. So if you're not great in accounting, please get somebody to do your bookkeeping. If you can afford it, bring an accountant on board. When you can afford it, bring a chartered accountant on board, but do it carefully. If you know that you need an advice from people, and you cannot pay sitting fees for directors, set up an advisory board of friends and family at the beginning, or people that you can trust, and eventually you'll be able to do a proper board. But you have to have short-term, medium, and long-term strategies. The next thing for us and for everybody is to focus on who your stakeholders are, or who your clients are, or your customers are, depending on who they are. Customer is king, but not in all circumstances, right? So that was also something that worked very hard for us. But then again, leadership was something that was also very important. You need to know yourself. For those of you that are entrepreneurs, you need to know your boss, KYB. You need to know the environment. And there's something called PESTEL, and I'm sure we have done that in various courses. Today, we need to do PESTEL on a monthly basis. The socio-political environment of business, political, environmental, social, you need to be able to do this on a monthly basis and see how this impacts your business. If you don't do it on a monthly basis, you'll find yourself extinct in the next 6 months because of the way the environment is changing and so fast-paced. So we must also be very deliberate of understanding our stakeholders and who our customers are. One of the things that telcos taught us a very long time ago is that who do you think the competition is of a telco? So if my name is MTN, is my competition Glo? Is it Airtel? It is anybody else that uses disposable income that could buy a recharge card instead of buy something else instead of buying a recharge card. So it means that Coca-Cola, Ashwabi people, they were also my competition. So you have to understand the competitor's landscape is not who you think it is anymore. In my industry now, a patent medicine store is a competitor. Forgive me, but sometimes churches are a competitor. Because instead of going to the cancer center to treat your cancer, you stay in the church and pray for 4 months, 5 months. The cancer grows, and unfortunately, people now present at stage 4, and there's nothing we can do. So you have to understand your competitive land, and it starts with being a market leader. Next slide. You also need to understand your competition and when it's time to do co-opetition. Co-opetition is understanding that you have to build an ecosystem together. You cannot be in the agro business and you think you're only going to do your own farm produce. There's a time where you need to influence policy to provide access to finance, access to different incentives, physical and non-physical incentives, and you need to come together. So there's a time to compete, and there's a time to collaborate. And this has worked a lot for us, especially in driving policy. The next slide, human resources. Oh boy. This is a big one, especially today with this thing they call JACPA. I must congratulate the fact that all of us are still in this room and that you haven't jackpot yet. But I hope that you're not going to jackpot. Now, those of us that are entrepreneurs, it is unlikely that we'll jackpot because we have something else that is keeping us in Nigeria that is not just money. There's something else keeping us here. For those of us that are still in the room, we're also passionate about our country, that there are opportunities to make a difference. And when you are satisfied, your employees are satisfied, your clients are satisfied. Next slide, please. This is a picture of what happened yesterday at our stand in Medic West Africa, big exhibition stand. As I said, that's the dream team. These are the people that make it happen. So for me, without my team, I am a nobody. It's no longer about the entrepreneur. I have pivoted. It's about them. Senior management, we have 22 members of management committee. 22. We have 3 members of the executive management committee. Decisions are decentralized. They're no longer about me anymore. Before it was me, myself, and I, the 3, both of us, right? Now it's no longer like that. So you also have to know the time when you must trust others and when you must leave the passion. I bottled the passion at the beginning and I continue to share that bottle of passion. But you also need to surround yourself with people that think with their head. Because you have too much passion, people will take advantage of you. So somebody has to be business savvy around you that says, no, this doesn't add up. We can't do it like this. No, we can't do it. We have to do it like that. And there's a check and balance within the organization. Eventually, you also set up audit. So these are a few more pictures just for your knowledge. So the next one, before I go to the last one, is financial strategy. All of us here, I'm sure if I take a show of hands, how many of us have found access to finance one of your biggest challenges? Raise your hands. Access to finance, financing your business. Yeah? Okay. So I'm happy that it's only half of the room. This is amazing. Faith Foundation. That's great. Because this is one of the things that is really tough. How do you get a loan from a bank that is affordable, that is medium term, long term in nature? How do you also make sure that this makes a difference? So there's a lot to be done. Now I'm going to just rush through a couple of slides now. So please just go to slide, the one that says solutions to challenges. Just go through, please. So some of the things that we have seen as we've gone along, as we've grown, each stage where we move from an entrepreneurial venture to a national corporate, now to multinational status, the challenges that face you at each of the stages are different. But these are some of the lessons that we have learned as we go along. You need to have better credit control. The credit control, your receivable management can put you out of business. Your people focus is very, very important. You need to work on a retention strategy that keep people engaged and also prevent people from poaching too many of your staff. You need to work on strategic collaboration and partnerships. You cannot do it alone. So align yourself with like-minded people. Bring in advisory services. So you can bring in some of the big four, or there are lots of other people, including people in the room, that can provide you with advisory services that can work. Finally, you need to work on work-life integration, not work-life balance. For an entrepreneur, there's no balance. Rude awakening. There's what they call work-life integration. Today, I thank God for the mobile phone. I'm able to be a mother, sometimes a digital mother. I'm able to interact with the company, and we've invested heavily in IT. So digital strategy, digital disruption is something that you must also involve yourself with, using some of the modern day techniques in M365 and so on and so forth. Please go on to... Just go through the pictures. Please go through the pictures. So I just want to show you some of the pictures, some of the things that we have done, so that you can understand what is this JNC that we're talking about. Next slides, please. So what's next? That's an MRI. That's an intensive care unit. That's another intensive care unit. I'm sure you're recognizing. That's a baby unit that saves a lot of babies. This is a CT scan and NMPC. This is the new Eurocare hospital. Their systems integrated, digitally integrated theater. Next slide. That is NMPC's hospital, 1.5 Tesla MRI. There's quite a lot. That's ABU teaching hospital. So public and private sector clients. Now, one more. Yeah, this is the state-of-the-art linear accelerator. So why am I showing you this slide? We started with baby beds, theaters, easy things, but now we're doing the rocket science. If anybody ever told me I'd be able to do the rocket science of healthcare, it's called a linear accelerator. It's what treats cancer. And we have in this country 5 of those machines in the last 4 years. Okay, so we've gone from almost only having 2 machines working in Nigeria to almost 10, and 5 of those we put in place. 2 in National Hospital, 2 in Maiduguri, 1 in Calabar, 3 coming into Lagos. There's a lot happening in the space. So why am I showing you this? If we can do it, you can do it. We started as an entrepreneur, and this is where we are today. So what is the future? The future now that I want us to take home is a couple of things. In this environment, one of the things I've seen as a big challenge in the last 3 years especially is the issue of ethics. I've worked for 32 years. The last 3 years have been the hardest years ever. Corruption has been so blatant and blunt, right in front of your face, no shame. How do you run an ethical business, ethical leadership, when everywhere around you are the oddball of what is going on? Please do never be afraid of being the oddball. For every time people are saying, you're not doing this, there'll be people that align with your value system, and you'll be able to move on. So for me, this is important, ethical leadership. The next thing I want you to take home is the importance of digital transformation, and how digital strategy is something that everyone must have in the business. Innovation today is the new tonic that we must take on. Collaborate and have experience. Next slide. You must also invest in risk management. The number of risks that face our business is a slippery slope. There are lots of things that you need to do. You don't do it afraid, is important. Please go on. But also think, please go 2 more slides, 2 more slides, 2 more, yeah. Also think beyond Nigerian shores. Today you're providing services to Nigeria. In the next 3 years, you'll be providing services to Africa. the next couple of years you'll be a global player. That is the destination, right? It's not for everyone, but for those of us that want to go there, you can, because of technology, because of the mobile phone, you can have your goods getting to any part of the world, anywhere, at any time. We can package our farm produce. We can package our fashion items, our jewelry. Whatever it is that we're doing, we can be a global player. So I want you to think big. It's important. I also want you to know that your team is a reflection of you. So your emotions are contagious. In this stressful environment, please, when you're in a bad mood, close your door. Don't pass on the negativity to others. Pass on positivity all the time, because once you're negative, it's contagious, unfortunately, and it travels faster. Watch your language and what you do as you grow your team, and always stay positive. Next slide, please. Think about corporate governance and the critical role that corporate governance plays in growing your business, in pivoting your business, where you have a team of other people looking inside, having an outside-in view of your business, helping you to drive the strategy, because strategy is driven from the top by the board. So corporate governance is something that helps you to grow, and it has helped us to grow. And for me, I also want to see more ladies, more women on boards. So you also have to build up both male and females within your team for board positions and invest in them. Very important. Collaboration is something that is very important. Internal collaboration and external collaboration. We cannot do it alone. If there's any time that collaboration is more important, it is today. So please let us also think about that. Have knowledge share sessions, have share sessions within your company. Speak to your staff at least on a monthly basis. I, for example, have a first day of every month, first business day of every month, we have a short prayer and we go on to a knowledge share session and an address by members of the executive committee. It's important that you engage your team and keep them informed as to what's going on. Think differently about risk. How many of us have insurance for everything? I am insured to the top T. From touching the equipment to putting it to carrying cash, everything is insured. At the beginning of the business, it is expensive, but it is penny wise, pound foolish. What I haven't shown you is the day, and this is not far away, it was about a year ago, a CT scan was brought into our warehouses. For your information, a CT scan is 300 million naira. They brought it into our warehouse and something happened while it was being offloaded, and it went like this. That's 2 Lamborghini Testarossas that I have never driven in my life, crashing. I was in the streets of the UK and they told me, "Madam, this happened, you should have seen me." I was crazy. Okay, thank God. I was like, what? But thank God they were insured. It was insured. The only thing that happened, and we flew it into the country because it was important to the hospital. We went to a national hospital actually, and we had to fly another one in. We lost the value of the FX because FX had moved. But if it hadn't been insured, imagine the damage it would have done to our business. So please, there are some things you should never play with. If you're importing goods, your marine insurance is 100%. You must insure it from door to door, not door to port. There's a difference. From the port to the warehouse, that's where it happened. And that's why we were saved, right? So it's very, very important that you do that. You must have a risk culture, and you do this together. So where are we going right now? Final slide now is called Nuggets for Success. Please be a sponge and read widely. Read about your subject matter and read widely. Develop your people skills. Be the best manager. Create an environment that's the best place to work. Develop your leadership skills. Invest in yourself. Continue to attend meetings like this today at this wonderful Faith Foundation conference. Let's give ourselves a round of applause, right? And be a sponge for knowledge. Critique yourself, right? If you can critique yourself and look in the mirror and say, I've not been a great guy today, or I could do this. Critique yourself and then ask others to critique you. Have people around you, surround yourself with people that will tell you the truth. Some of our leaders in the country, they are the way they are because people around them are sycophantish. They do not tell them the truth and where they're failing. And sometimes you fail. As a leader, the minute you think that you're holier than thou, you're greater than everything, you start to fail. Humility, take a humility pill every morning before you start your day. There will be good days and there will be bad days. Try and make the good days great. I think the success, the outlook for Nigeria may be glim, but there's so many opportunities that you'll need sunglasses to wear them. So I ask you, ladies and gentlemen in the room, please get out your sunglasses. The future is bright. Nigeria is the place to invest. Africa is the base to invest. Let's have hard work, meet opportunity. The rest is yours. Thank you very much.